to Atlantic Ocean, upon me hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, ooh, talking about culture, yeah, politics, education, entertainment, yeah, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Well, a big hello to viewers everywhere, and welcome to another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. Today is September the 19th, 2024. My name is Mohamed Sherif, sitting in for CEO Dennis Njah. Today I have with me a distinguished panel of really specialists and people that I respect in their various fields. Jerome, including you too. So today I have with me Dr. Abdoulaye Doucouré from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Dr. Doucouré is a veteran Liberian public servant. Dr. Doucouré is also a journalist and a college professor. Dr. Doucouré, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you, Mohamed Sherif, and I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to good conversation on the various topics that we have today. Thank you.
Good to have you. I also have from the great state of Minnesota, Ahmed Sherif, my own brother. Ahmed Sherif. Ahmed Sherif is a scholar. He is a public policy analyst on FOL. Ahmed Sherif is also the executive director of the newly established Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative. Ahmed, welcome. And you're going to talk to us about this new initiative.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Mohamed, thank you for the generous introduction. And I'm really honored to be in the midst of these distinguished co-panelists tonight.
Good to have you. Last but not least, I have from the sunshine state of Florida, the unabashed, unapologetic, and recalcitrant sedition, Mr. Jerome Gamer from Florida. Jerome is the host of On Point here on FOL. And On Point, for those of you who don't know, I think I appear on Point only one time, but I do like On Point. You know, these are a bunch of guys. You know, they're very opinionated. They are biased. But welcome, Jerome.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to appear on Talk Talking Thursday. Usually when I'm here, I always learn something new. You know, you can bring your opinion. It belongs to you. But when you face what are numbers, factual stuff, you can spin all you want. When you come, the numbers is still there, staring you in the face. So it is a good thing to be here to learn something new.
Good to have you. So let's get right to it. But before we get to it, there's something very near and dear to my heart. Something I shared in the chat room not too long ago. A situation, and Brother Ahmed, I think this is very close to you as well. You know, something that I'm sure you'll be interested in. There was a young lady, something circulating out there online, and there's a young lady who was physically assaulted in an isolated location somewhere. I understand it's somewhere in Lofa County.
My man said it's power then, so today we have to start. Come and go across on stage. No, in the quick.
And yeah, I think we can roll the tape and then react to that, and then we'll come back. But before that, I want to welcome Dr. George Williams to Tough Talking Thursday. Welcome, Dr. Williams. You're muted.
You are muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I just realized that. How you all doing? Happy Thursday to everyone.
Thank you. So we'll roll the tape. And one of the reasons why I would like for us to roll this tape is because I want us to identify these criminals. And not only to identify the criminals, but to identify the female victim in this video. So that, not only that we want to bring these criminals down, but we can also identify with this female victim. All it takes is one at a time. Maybe if we do something now, this will be a lesson for others who are taking the law into their own hands. So let's roll the tape.
My man said it's power then, so today we have to start. Come and go across on stage. No, in the quick. For Fenzio. The men are wasting time, sir. No way, they call me. Nowhere to escape from Stabibo. That means, I will teach you sense. They want to call sense. You know what teach. You have not done it, but you have done it. So, now what we can do? Then one want to store to my shop, call all the wire the bob. Oh yeah, come. Let me see where I can clear. No, that way from there. Yeah, but the boy, we go. I know. That you say, I never love you to the one. I don't want to go that way. I go. You have to go to the I don't want to show you right. You know, green hour. Amen. Can't hold it in, go up. A new weapon. I'll take your new weapon.
I think we got a point. Maybe not need to go any further than this. Maybe kids are watching.
The last part of it. But, the most important part of it, Jerome, is coming after this.
Okay.
No, I think the.
My man said it's power then, so today we have to start. Come and go across on stage. No, in the quick. For Fenzio. The men are wasting time, sir. No way, they call me.
It's violence against women. I don't think.
But
this is I don't think this is the forum for it. I don't think this is a forum that we want to spend time discussing this.
Right. I understand that, but this is something to me that's so important.
What this phone keep popping up? Mr. Sherif, could you? I mean, you may have watched this from the beginning. What is the basis here? What's going on? I know their cruelty. I'm afraid that they may even kill her at the end. That's why I'm afraid to even watch it to the end. What happened here?
So, as you watch these guys, so her hands and feet are bound to that tree, and he began to whip her with a heavy, whatever someone else brought, a whip, and he started to physically assault her. And she cried. And she said, Uncle, please, I'm not going to do this again, in a Liberian way. And, he continued. So to me, this is the forum for us to discuss this. And, by doing this, I would like for us to, all of us, to assist with identifying this criminal that did this. All it takes is, this to go around, with impunity. And the next thing you know, someone else is replicating this. Where are the human rights activists? Where is everybody? Where are the feminists? Where is the Minister of Justice? Where is the mayor? Where is the senator? Where are members of the House of Representatives? This is despicable. The idea that we can't even talk about this, it's insane.
Mohamed,
this is despicable. If we can't talk about this, then I can't do this show. I can't do this.
Mohamed. I don't think it's not that we all know what happened in the show. I think Mr. Game just said it. He said, I can imagine what will happen. It's going to be worse. Either she'll get killed or raped or whatever. We all have that. There's no problem. There's no issue about it. I don't think anybody on this show want to say, "Oh, this is not something we don't want to see." We know what is happening. We condemn it, and we're not trying to say, "Oh, well, we're not doing."
Who condemn it? I'm sorry. Who condemn it?
No, we do condemn the action of the men who are doing this, and we are asking.
Condemnation is not enough.
No,
condemnation is not enough.
Okay, can I talk, Mr. Moderator, or you going to shut down?
Right, but I'm just saying we got to move on to someone else. Condemnation is not enough.
Yeah, but what are you going to do from here?
Well, that's very good. That's a very good question. We men and hopefully women watching, women of conscience, will look at this and be outraged. This has to now be reported to the Minister of Justice. This has to be reported to the senators from that area, the representatives from that area, whom the taxpayers are paying, so that these things will not happen.
Mohamed, let me, if I may. Yeah, look, this is my first time seeing this. I know in the Tough Talking chat, I saw a comment, and I didn't open it. It didn't seem like a video to me. I thought it was a image or pictures that you were commenting on, but this is very disturbing. This is beyond condemnation. Okay, so we're all in this together. I guess it's the graphic nature of the physical assault that was the media out against this lady in the end, and whether this is made for TV or not. Dr. Tuklo was saying children may be watching, and even us adults who are watching this, it's difficult to stomach just to see in the beginning up to the point they took her to that pool and tying her. You can imagine the rest of it. It's just I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is outrageous. There's so many things that are running through my mind. It's beyond human rights violation. It's criminal. What was happening over there? Yeah, what happened to that lady? I hope she's alive. I hope she's fine. But you're asking so many. We should be asking so many questions. So who took the video? Even who recorded it?
That was a question.
So we're trying to track down these criminals who did. It's not one person. It seems to me that there's some collusion that happened there. That people cheering on, apparently, from the voices in the background. Somebody is recording her. It's a good thing that the video has brought it to our attention, but it's sort of a privacy violation. It's a degradation for dignity or honor. So we would, thank you for bringing it to my attention. After this show, I'm going to follow up with you to see where the video originated from. We will follow up. We're about to talk about our group, and part of the work we do is these kinds of things: accountability, human rights monitoring and reporting, and governance monitoring and reporting. We'll talk about those very soon. So yes, this is the right place, and we are the right people who should be discussing this, and beyond discussion, making sure that those who committed this crime are brought to justice, and we will ensure that will happen.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Williams, I will come to you. But Jerome, you remember there was a guy who assaulted the young lady from the lady whose mom you interview on your show. They took him to court, and what did our judicial system do? They let him go. They let him leave the country, and now he's sitting here in the United States. The man was married. His wife was with him in Liberia. He went and married to this Liberian lady and got her, from what we heard, impregnated, didn't want the pregnancy. So he almost killed her. This is what we're going through in Liberia. Is despicable. I can't stomach this no more. I can't stomach this. Dr. Williams, your thought as we round this up and go to the issues under discussion today.
Mohamed, what you see happening in the video is symptomatic of larger social issues obtaining across the country. I will say, however, that our country is evolving. Our country is evolving, maybe too slowly, but it is evolving. The fact that a video like this will come to the public says something about not just in terms of a determination to move away from it, but also a determination to bring it to the fore so that others who will see occurrences like these are able to interact and ensure that the right interventions are met. I like to side with Dr. Dukley on the fact that as public activists, as we'll call ourselves, sitting here discussing the issues, we have to get to that point where our dignity, or the dignity of those who are suffering the abuses, are protected. And the fact that we're on this program and we privy to the video does not give us the exclusivity to make public. The video is already public, but we can be part of the process where we disregard young folks who are out there who might be looking. Some of these things aren't for them to see. We can talk about it. As a civic activist myself, before transitioning to the US, there was a lot that we've done over the years to bring these things to the fore. But we have to be careful what we put in the public space.
Thank you.
Because it doesn't stay with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That being said,
Mr. Sherif.
Yeah, 1 second, Jerome. That being said, everybody has been quiet, including the so-called corporate human rights people that are, getting millions of dollars sitting there.
Well, that's an assumption, though. That's an assumption.
And that is something.
That is an assumption.
I checked the newspapers. I checked all the newspapers before this show. There is nothing out there right now. Jerome, yes, please come in.
Yeah, Dr. Williams, I have to vehemently disagree with you. Police killing Black people in this country have been happening from the beginning of time. It was the George killing in Minnesota, in plain view, where the world got to see it over and over and over before it conscientized the entire world that this is not what's supposed to happen in this era. It shouldn't happen to any human being. The same thing happened in Liberia. This may be just one video that we were fortunate to get. There may be thousands of other folks that are dying in silence. And until we can profile what he just did, as vivid and graphic as this may be, and 1980, I was a young man, a teenager, and I saw something similar where during the coup, they were tying people's hands and taking them to a pool. And it's still in my mind. And then just recently, we saw people gross disregard for the rule of law, going into people's neighborhood and taking people's children, girls, and doing female genital mutilation and doing all of these things in broad daylight because they have become so brazen because nobody has gone to it. So I agree. While this is vivid, Mr. Sherif, I think collectively we have to condemn this. We have to amplify this. And from here, we all need to start getting on the phone, calling our representatives, our senators, our zoos, our fraternity brothers. Yeah. So hopefully this girl will be the last that this will happen to.
Thank you. Thank you. At the very least, we need to identify with this female victim. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Tough Talking Thursday. So, Ahmed, you are the executive director of the Liberian Governance and Justice Initiative. And can you talk to us, the Liberian people about this initiative? This is such a great and worthy initiative. And I want to commend you for this, for your foresight. And so I want you to take some time and educate us on this, on this great initiative.
Thank you, Mohamed, and thank you, everybody here on the panel and those who are viewing. So the organization is the Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative, LGJI. This organization we have launched just very recently, but it's a vision that has been coming for a while. It's one that is needed now. It's not because there are not civil society organizations in Liberia. There are not human rights advocates in Liberia. There are, in fact, we are communicating with coalitions of civil society organizations and other human rights advocates in Liberia. But what LGJI envisions is a Liberia where governance and transparency, governance is transparent, justice is accessible to all, and human rights are respected and upheld. As our way of really saying, yes, this will be a human rights organization in a way, but this is an organization that is almost like a think tank that empowers scholars, leaders, journalists, other civil society organizations, and even public sector institutions like governmental institutions in terms of some of our other programming areas. And I'll explain what that means. You and I know, all of us here on this panel who are here in the US, there are diaspora organizations that are based here in the United States or in other countries, speaking and writing and researching and working on issues regarding what's happening in their homeland and supporting their homelands, but also working in the homeland itself. Now, so we Liberians, we have many organizations. We have high school alumni associations, district associations, tribal and ethnic, religious, and EULA, and so forth. You can name it, various community organizations. But where we could benefit a little more is what we're envisioning to do with LGBTQ. Where our mission is to promote and advocate for the rule of law, but not just that, but governance. What does that mean? Because if you dabble into issues of governance, you're really addressing rule of law, you're addressing human rights, you're addressing the economy, you're addressing the private sector, you're talking about social cultural issues, you're talking about education and the whole gambit of it. It's really about not being an activist organization or an opposition organization, but this will be one that will be in partnership with the government, in partnership with other international organizations, other like-minded bodies, nationally and internationally.
Thank you.
So, for example, or quickly before I end, we have multiple program areas. Some of them are developing. We could collapse them to make them like fewer program areas. But we have a fellowship program that has 4 areas. So you have public sector and governance fellowship, rule of law and justice, diaspora engagement fellowship, and trade and investment. Now, we can talk about some of those later in the program, but we're really looking to invite scholars, journalists, civil society folks, and governmental entities as well to work with them to promote the positive image of Liberia and showcase Liberian talent and Liberian scholarship and Liberian goodwill, both in Liberia and abroad.
Thank you. So before I move on, you gave us a sort of a broader view of what you're trying to do. So if I ask you, anyone else asks you out there in the street, like on a real micro level, MRCRO, on a real micro level, right away, what are you trying to solve right now?
I'm trying to build capacity. I'm trying to promote what it looks, what good governance looks like. And in all aspects of it, whether it's judiciary, whether it's trade, investment, economy, whether it's just civic and political, you name it. What does it mean to have a country that has good governance tenets that helps it to grow and progress and make it a place that is really successful and prosperous for all?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Douglas, I want to come to you, sir. There is this, I guess, mythology of, whatever, comes from the outside. It has to be the European. It has to be the American. It has to be the IMF or the World Bank or these different organizations to tell us exactly what's occurring in our country before it can be trusted. So given that this is what we've been riding on for decades, centuries even. So would you say that this is initiatives like this, something like this is needed, and what can you add to this to also educate us regarding initiatives like this?
Thank you. I think it's a very welcome idea, and I'll say it's overdue. And one of the problems we have, we don't sit and reflect on issues in Liberia. We have this tendency to go from election to elections, to one candidate to another candidate, but we don't sit and think fundamental. What are we doing? What is needed? How do we transform what is not working? And why is it not working? So we always have these programs coming from the World Bank, as you said, from the IMF, from this and that. But sometimes, those programs are conceived by, Africans at the World Bank who work for the World Bank. And then they sell them they go from Tanzania to Liberia, change the name on the font and all of that. But we have the capacity to do that. We have the capacity to think about solutions to our problems. We know the problems because we know where the problems came from. Mm-hmm. So therefore we can handle them. And I think more think tanks, more people getting together to reflect, not necessarily always agreeing on the same thing, but always saying, you know what, this may work, this may not work. And I think, this is a very good thing to happen, Ahmed, and we all will support this as we can, and then, talk to you about it and uphold our support whenever we can and where we can. But I think definitely, when you look at Liberia, look at the University of Liberia. I don't remember any single paper, journal published by University of Liberia in the last 20 years. In the last 20 years on any development issue. I don't remember the Ministry of Finance and Development publishing any indicator development index on Liberia and say, this is where we are going, this is what we have, this is what we're lacking. We don't have it. Nobody knows, but so we swim in a big mess.
Right.
So the more people we have to think about those things, to vision a different Liberia, to come up with new solutions, I think the more, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jerome.
Yes, sir.
So I will come to you on these issues, on the issue of think tanks in Liberia, and where Dr. Dukla left off. As you know, this is not, and Ahmed mentioned that this is not the first think tank, and this will not be the last. There are other think tanks out there, Liberian-owned think tanks, but the predominant number is either European or American-based, think tanks that are advising us on our own issues. So what is your own, I guess I could say, input or your perspective, your broader overview of, an initiative like this? And I will really get to some, other things, like as far as, the organization, because, Ahmed released a statement just I think yesterday, so we'll get into that, and so we'll get to the real partisan part of it. So don't worry, because I know you're ready for politics.
No, actually, I spent about 10 or 12 years of my professional life with the United Way, and I always sat on the other end when new organizations come to present their papers and their ideas, and they're looking for funding. They are setting questions that I usually ask, and I'm looking at the research here on Liberia. We have about 15 think tanks in Liberia that are doing something similar on the justice, and we got global justice, peace, and human rights advocacy. We have Association of Female Lawyers. They are also in that group. We got a Center for Justice and Peace Study, and it goes on and on. So if I were on the other hand, you came to do that presentation to me, I would ask you, are we looking at possibly duplication of services here? What sets you apart from the rest of these guys?
You want me to answer that now? I'm happy to.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to sound as though I'm condemning other organizations, because I've worked with many of these civil society organizations in Liberia. We're on various groups together. We're colleagues. But what sets us apart is that we believe that we are coming with a holistic approach to some of the larger critical issues that are really keeping Liberia down. That's not to say, those that are in country every day doing the work, looking for data or reporting on issues are not doing the work. They are. But we want to be able to be that voice that can speak to the international community with credibility as well on Liberia, on Liberian issues, that can present reports like you were all talking about, the State Department country status report, World Bank data on Liberia, IMF. Those are our sources of data. I worked for an international development government entity in Liberia for 6 years. As a result of that work, in a very high level role, I sat in meetings with all these organizations you're talking about. I went to Washington, D.C., Brussels, and other places. The two things I took from that experience. One, they say Liberia is a data desert. Basically, there's no data about Liberia. You have to extrapolate from countries of similar characteristics and size and think about Liberia. Imagine that. For example, since 1966, Liberia has now had its own data source to calculate and understand the national account as a country, because there's no data we extrapolate from UNDP World Bank. The second thing that those donors and experts, expert community folks talk about Liberia is that we don't have capacity. They say they don't have capacity to do basic things. It used to be very insulting to me to sit in those meetings and hear that we can produce data about our own country. We do not have data in Liberia to inform decision making. There are some things some changes we made in my role, for instance, of let's just the Liberia Geostatistics House, as coming from the donor side, that really pushed the government and implemented some changes in that institution that is now helping today. Looking at all of that, our organization is looking to bridge Liberians in Liberia and Liberians in the diaspora. Professional Liberians in Liberia, professional Liberians in the diaspora, and non-Liberians as well, who are Liberian thinkers, who are Liberianists and Liberian scholars, to really be that voice, that go-to organization that's respected based on the work it does, not based on what it says it will do or what it says it is about. We really want to show that our diaspora engagement program, for instance, that's not just diaspora people, are not just about remittances. The Liberian experts here, Liberian doctors and nurses and teachers and lawyers, we can talk about them. Well, we encourage them to contribute to a Liberian initiative, to come to Liberia to really engage in professional exchanges and things like that. On the trade and investment side, how do you understand the data, the climate? How do we change the narrative? There's this negative narrative about Liberia out there in the world. If it's not conflict, it's corruption, it's incompetence. And so we're looking to really work hard to gain funding, serious funding, to do serious work, to support our brothers and sisters who are doing similar work in country, to train them, to train our government entities and government employees and civil servants. To bring in, Africans who are experts on the continent of Africa, who understand other Africans' problems, to really help us understand ourselves, to tackle our challenges.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Williams, again, similar question. There are initiatives like this in Liberia. And you even mentioned something to the effect that, there's advancement, right? Liberia is advancing. So that advancement of which you speak, is it attributable to, groups like this, or, what will you say in a broader sense about, Liberian own think tanks?
Well, firstly, let me say to Ahmed, congratulations. I think more than ever before, we need as many organizations such as yours to get on the scene, be a part of the conversation, add your voice, your expertise to the fray. It has been a long journey for the last 20 or so years. I mean, if we go back into time, starting with the Abapots and on to the Susuku, in most recent times, within the last 20 years, several groups have evolved, doing similar work. Liberia Democracy Watch, Eddie Jawula with NAYMOTE, Malcolm Joseph with the media. There've been a splinter of us across the country working, I would say, since 1993, thereabout. Yeah, up to present. Some of these groups are still around, and they've all done within the scope of their mission, within the scope of the resources that were available to them, have done enormously well. Some of the reasons why we are where we are, you mentioned AFEL, all right? And the video you're about we saw initially, those are things within the scope of AFEL, okay? So there are a large number of groups that have operated over time and making their contributions. Yours will be welcome. Yours will definitely, with the resources, I'm sure, available to you. But I will also caution you, as a player who's been there before, attempting to, because governance is very broad. If you don't target a niche in governance, you're failing yourself already. You have to target your niche because there are too many groups out there that are quote unquote doing everything, and those groups don't last too long because they burn out. And so it will be my caution to you: select a niche, go into it. You can't do everything. I worked with Liberia Democracy Watch, and our focus was on, like you say, governance, but governance from the electoral standpoint, governance from the transparency and accountability standpoint. And we focused on that over my time, at least as head of Liberia Democracy Watch. And so going in, this is a laudable idea. I think Liberia needs it now. The government of the day needs it. We need as many people who can hold the government's foot to the fire to ensure that they do what's needed. And so congratulations. And I think, and I trust you do well.
Thank you.
Thank you. William Gibson has joined us. Brother Gibson, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. You know, last time Dr. Douglas was making a pitch to you, and I watched a segment, and Dr. Douglas said to you, stay on Tough Talking Thursday. Don't go to Friday night because there are old people on there. And he made that pitch. I'm like, damn, I mean, can you give us a chance? So now that's why I moved here today, because Dr. Douglas made that pitch. He condemned all of us on Friday. So welcome. We're talking about governance today, and our brother and friend here on FOL, Ahmed Sherif, has just established a new organization, and it's called the Liberian Governance and Justice Initiative. It's a think tank, a Liberian think tank, Liberian-owned think tank, and so we've been talking about governance around the issues of, within the prism of these think tanks. So I know you've just come on. If you have any input, if not, I'll come back to you later on.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, go ahead, Dr. Duke.
Yeah, can I just, I wanted to just put in one point. I think the issue that we all have here is, during the during EGS time, when we had the UN support, 15,000, and then the UN, all the machinery, a lot of think tanks came up, small groups coming up, but they were all linked to outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is now, Ahmed, I would like to, how autonomous will you be? Because I think that's the problem with Liberian NGOs and civil society organizations. Most of them are linked to international things. So when there's a war in Uganda or war in South Africa or somewhere, they go there. They stop funding you in Liberia. So how that's autonomy. That autonomy, I think, is a key issue. So I'll let Mr. Gibson go on, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say first and foremost, congratulations to Mr. Sirleaf for undertaking this initiative. I think it's, as everyone has stated a little bit, I was following the show on the way to get home. I think it's really profound to see a Liberian in the driver's seat being a part of these think tanks and really trying to promote more Liberians getting involved within the governance process and sustainable development, and what that looks like for Liberia. What better way to do that than for Liberians to be the ones doing the work right on the ground? And hopefully the government and any other partners that you all will encounter will be receptive to receive you all to add to the overall discourse of what needs to be done in those areas that really is essential if we're talking about Liberia progressing. So kudos to you and the team for undertaking that work.
Thank you. Yes, Ahmed. So if you will respond to Dr. Dupla's question, I thought it was an excellent question.
Yeah, also to Dr. Williams, his question, and Mr. Gibson as well. Dr. Williams, thank you. This is new, as you know how these work, right? We're looking for feedback. We're still looking for feedback. In fact, the platform, the website itself, just got launched last week. The organization has been in the process for a while, but we just announced the platform. So we're looking for experts, professionals, Liberians in Liberia and in the diaspora to say, oh, don't do it this way because of this, do it this way. So I'll reach out to you after the show. Maybe we can recruit you to be on our board because we're recruiting for the board as well. So thank you for that. And Dr. Duclet, excellent point. This is an independent body. Now, we have a partnership development program. We want to intentionally focus with that program on looking for partners in Liberia, like I said, even with the government of Liberia, with ECOWAS, AU, these UN agencies, whatever it is, but not in the sense that they are controlling us, right? Because we want to be able to cultivate these relationships and partnerships, not for the sake of answering to people, but for the sake of, bringing positive attention to what our country can offer, what potential our country has, and how we can also garner resources to get the work done. So if anyone who buys into our vision and comes to support or wants to partner, we will assess that partnership, we'll welcome it, but we're going to be a Liberian entity led by Liberians, for Liberian, and of Liberians, and for Liberia.
Now,
yeah.
I have a. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So I just wanted to say that, answer that, and thank again Dr. Williams and what Mr. Gibson said. Thank you so for those kind words. We're looking forward to connecting with our FOL family and people who will reach out. People have been reaching out to us. I have to say it on the platform from Liberia. I mean, there are all kinds of. Because we have a place to, if you want to volunteer or just want to get involved, you want more information, we've received a ton of information that people are curious, and even some postings that we're saying we're looking. This is a developing organization, but these are the crucial roles that we'll be hiring for now. We have a recruiting agency that's looking at all of that. So the reception has been very welcoming and very enthusiastic.
Thank you. So on the final segment that we have on LGJI now, is that you put out a press statement recently, commending the government of President Boakai. So what is your metrics for this perhaps
thank you
recommendation to the government?
Yeah, so it wasn't just me sitting in the room writing, and saying, "Oh, I'm going to commend the president." If you follow LGJI from today on, we're trying to be very transparent as we can be. Even the board membership, we're asking people to apply. Right, we're not just going picking our friends. So the statement was in the context of the president coming to the UN, the 79th UN General Assembly. Not just coming to the UNGA, but the president is leading Liberia's bid for a non-permanent seat on the Security Council. There are 5 seats for 2 continents, Asia and Africa. We believe, based on our mission with LGJI, that if Liberia were to be successful in that bid, it will bring a lot of positive attention to the country. It aligns with our one of our goals, our program areas of promoting the positive image of Liberia. And so then we went back with, since the president was elected to today, what are some of the things that we believe, even if there are words that he has altered and put in place some mechanisms, they haven't fully implemented them. We're calling on the government to implement. For instance, the one area we said this is a core visionary and bold step is this office that the president has signed an executive order 131 establishing an office that will spearhead research and drafting of the charter of what will be the court and all of that, right? Now, those are words we haven't seen it fully implemented, but we're saying to even do that, It's a big stance. It's a bold step. And so we commend the president for that, because it addresses impunity. It sends a strong message. And if you can tackle corruption and impunity and really the rule of law area, everything else falls in place.
Thank you.
And so we looked at those were our metrics. You're asking for metrics. So we debated and went back and forth on that. We said at this point, we're going to release this statement, and they will come across as like, okay, you're supporting Boakai, you just, you alien. In fact, some media houses say the group hails President Boakai. So we're trying to set the president up to come to the world stage and say, look, you've said you will do this. These are what we see you do. If you act upon these things, they're consequential. It's monumental. These are monumental steps. We want to encourage the government. And so we've set them up to succeed. And we're waiting to see now how they react to that. Now, we got a lot of pushback on that, I have to say. I'll end with that. And
you know what? You're going to get pushback. Look, and I'll come to Jerome in a second. For us, independent, you're speaking. I think you're speaking for us, all of us, independent. I'm not a partisan. I'm an independent, and everybody here knows that. So you are speaking for all of us, independent. Jerome, your thought? I think that was an excellent statement by the organization. So what is your thought?
Well, like I said, it is in one of my leadership classes, the Honorable Michael Dukakis said the same thing. He said, Jerome, there's 1,000 think tanks out there. He said, the problem that we have is how do we go from the boardroom, from the think tank table to implementation? All the great stuff that we write, how do we have people implement them? There's 1,000 of us.
Sorry, my question was, do you agree with LGJ's assessment of the Boakai administration, because it is very complimentary of the government at this point in time, based on what the government has done so far, which is a vast contrast with NAYMOTE's, which we'll get to in the second segment. So do you agree with LGJ so far in their commendation of the Boakai government as a recalcitrant unrepentant sedition?
Well, the organization has a mission and they have a strategy. There's no way you can say it's right or wrong. They are launching something. It's a new idea. So you have to give them the opportunity to gel and see where it goes. Everything has a strategy. I think they try something new and see how it works. You can't, it's not right or wrong at this point. This is a new idea, a new strategy, and they are putting it in place. So you still have to give them a chance to make sure that they get their footing.
Okay. Dr. Dukley?
Well, as you say, it's a good statement. Supporting your president of the country is not a bad idea. It's since we don't have, I haven't read the statement, so I can't really judge it. I would say, yeah, where Liberia is in transition, we're still in transition to democracy. So we are making efforts, and so all of that, Boakai going along, I think he made some steps. So yeah, maybe why not? But then again, I think it will all come down to what they will do really when they start working. The projections are good, the ideas are great, but when they start working, will they be doing things to please the government, to say yes, government is doing great, or will they say, okay, this is where we are, this is what we need, and this is how we get it done?
Okay, thank you. Dr. Williams, to peel off of that, how were you able, you just shared with us that you've been in Democracy Watch, Liberia Democracy Watch for a long time. So as an experienced professional, how have you been able to be relevant this long, because at some point you have to ruffle some feathers, I would suppose. So how have you been relevant for this long?
Well, I will say that I did leave Democracy Watch in 2013 after it became apparent that I wasn't returning home anytime soon after school. Okay. So LDW, I had to relinquish my responsibilities there. But there are many strategies one can employ. And I'll say to Ahmed, without shame, you can choose to use the antagonistic approach or the complementary approach, whichever works for you. Sometimes it does pay to ruffle feathers in the beginning, and then you work your way down. It sort of gives you draws to you some level of attention, but it has to be positive attention. You have to stick. You have to be able to navigate those waters in a very strategic yet political way. Other times, as you've done, I haven't read your statement, but if it's in contrast to what Eddie Jawlo did, I would think it was complimentary of the government, like Mohamed said. And if it's complimentary, it's good, because what it does also for you is that it opens doors for you. Yeah, it opened doors for you. What you do with that access becomes important after that. Civil society groups across the country, one of the things we've pushed for is a seat at the table. We fought for a seat at the table, whether it was in the Senate or the House or government policy making. We fought for a seat at the table. And I tell you, it wasn't easy. Even with the friends we had, it wasn't easy, because oftentimes the issues we raised, whether we were right or wrong, people at the table, like government officials, they had to protect their own interests first. Yeah. And so I'm saying these things to you because at the end of the day, some of your very best friends will close their door on you, because the issues you're pushing and the approach you're employing go contrary to protecting their.
Thank you. Brother Gibson, the thing about, one of the questions that I asked Dr. Dukley earlier on was in Liberia, right? There's this, whole mythology of, the foreign, whatever is foreign is good. Foreign is the best. And Dennis, I briefly talked to Dennis about this. I'm not going to repeat what we discussed, but everything that's foreign is good. IMF report is the best. World Bank is the best. Everything from the United States has to be the best. Europe, the EU, heck, our senators and representatives, when they are protesting, there's a particular representative, like his second, the United States Embassy is his second office, it looks like. That's where, he took all his protests there. Never mind, he's a representative that was elected. So he doesn't know his own power. He goes to the United States Embassy to ask the United States ambassador to do something for Liberia. So, I can go on and on with this. So when you look at something like this, just in general terms, so I've watched you, and you do have real progressive ideas, which is why Dr. Dukley lobby for you to stay here and not come to our show. So what's your feedback on this?
Yeah, I think as far as Liberia, the government as a whole always supporting non-Liberians, I think this will be a true test specifically for this administration. When you talk about the slogan or what they ran on about think Liberia, love Liberia, build Liberia, I think it speaks to putting that Liberia first, right? Liberians first, putting us in the driver's seat. So hopefully, being that Mr. Sherif has made a statement on behalf of his organization in support of what the administration is working towards, it will hopefully open some doors for some more conversations, and for it to not be seen as an adversarial institution, but rather an institution that is looking to work together, but also hold them accountable. So I think this will be a test of the administration to show that they're believing in Liberians and putting Liberia first and Liberians first in any decision-making process.
Thank you. So viewers, you're watching Tough Talking Thursday. So now we'll get into the second segment, but I'd like for us to probably take a break, and then we'll come back and look at NAYMOTE's position on the government, which is the very opposite of what we've been talking about. And so, so we're talking about two competing visions of Liberia, or of governance as it is. So we'll take our first break.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
We are back. We're back. And I have to say, when you talk about Liberian initiative, from the bottom up, what better platform than these Liberian platforms? And I speak of most of them, but especially focus on Liberia. It's a visionary project. And to me, maybe I'm biased, but, this is a kind of project that those in positions of authority should look at. How many times, like every time I say this, if I can earn $1, I will be a millionaire. But I will continue to say it. This is one of those projects, like from the bottom up, out of nowhere. Dennis, and others were able to build, this platform to inform, to educate, to entertain. I mean, you have the whole range of programs. And so this is a great initiative. So now we're going to get into the second part of our program, which is that NAYMOTE, which is a governance, a think tank, more like, Brother Sherif's organization, put out a statement. And one of the things that they did was that they came out with, a whole lot of graphic in terms of what the government has and hasn't done. So let's take a look at what they have. These are some of the things that they have. So they graded the government on governance, on economy, on, the administration of justice, and the whole range of it. So perhaps we can move these, Jerome. We can move them quickly. But basically, what he's saying is that according to NAYMOTE, there were 119 promises, electoral promises, campaign promises that the government put out there. But out of this 119, only 3 have been completed so far, and 70 was in progress. 17 has not started, and according to them, 29 remains unrated. What I can say about about this before I throw this out to you guys is that, I mean, if you're rating how many months in now? Like what? Few months, a year?
Nine,
Yeah,
9 months, 9 months.
barely a year old government in this manner. Are you not being too critical given what they were handed? Dr. Dukley, I will, come to you on this because you are not only, you've not only worked with, you know, Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, but you work with several governments, I think. And so, what will you say to the rest of us about how this kind of rating is done? Is this fair?
Well, thank you for. I think the one of the essence of democracy is accountability, right? People will always hold the government accountable and say, these are your promises, these are our problems, and how are you going to solve them? But, coming to the report itself, I think the big mistake we make is to judge government. They did this with George Weah. At one point it was like 22%, 18%. I always say, you can keep somebody from, to their campaign promises. Campaign promises are made to win votes. They're not meant to run a country. They're not governance projects. So when you go from the campaign, you say, yes, I'm going to build 200 highways. Trump said he's going to build a wall. Mr. Gayman, you hero, you right? Where's the wall? He said Mexico will pay for it. Did Mexico pay for anything? So, you go from campaign promises, and then you get into the governance process. And I'll say, any objective person looking at this will say, okay, when did Boakai get his cabinet together? June. He has his first cabinet meeting. He started developing his own development agenda, which will be launched on his birthday, incidentally, which was not a good idea to do. But anyway, it's going to be launched on his birthday. And then I think from that point, we could say, okay, from now on, we are going to hold you to this, because he didn't know how much money he was going to find in the coffers. Mr. Gayman and his friend had looted the government so badly, there was no rat left in the building. So he didn't know how many people, 700 people on the payroll at a mansion that were not doing anything except being friends of friends of friends of friends. He didn't know those things. So now he has a government, he has his ministries, he has a project, he has a government project. Let's give him that time to say, okay, but I won't hold anybody to campaign promises, because I work for a lot of campaign. As you say, I work with Amos Soya, I work with Football last campaign, I work for, Komapo. Campaign promises are to get votes. They are not governance issues. So, I'll say, hey, give Boakai some time. He got 6 years to go. Mr. Gayman, you like it or not, the man got 6 years to do his work. So you're going to sit here and cry, but he's going to do it.
The aforementioned Mr. Gayman. So, there are two things hanging around your neck now, because now, Trump is your hero. So, so I don't know how you're going to extricate yourself from this.
Well,
but wait, before you answer, are you proud of this?
I am very, very proud of. I am very, very proud of the George Minor Weah.
No. Okay, I won't bother you about Trump then.
Okay. Well, the Trump. We told you that Mexico will pay. We didn't tell you when. The check is in the mail. But you see, one of the things that I like about NAYMOTE is the organization is very consistent. They've been doing it, I think, from Ellen to George Weah. So they have always done, their methodology is the same. They do it quarterly, every 6 months, every 9 months they do this. And I think it's very good if you are a good leader and you want someone to remind you, because sometimes you are in a cocoon You are surrounded by yes sir, yes man folks who wouldn't want to rattle the cage. So if you have an organization, and I think I met Mr. Sherif himself, at some point they would be able to slip something to the president and say, you know, we too far gone without doing what we say we're going to do. So their mission is not about public policy. It's about talk and do. What did you say you were going to do? What time frame did you give us? Are you living within that mandate? That's what they do. That's their job, and they are doing it. They are just reminding the president, you are 9 months into this. We got 3 more months to go to a 4 year. And here we are at this point, you are only 3% of the promises made. So I believe those within the president's cabinet or people within the kitchen cabinet will be looking at some of these things, going over it with a fine comb tooth and say, sir, I think we need to readjust. We need to do this, we need to do that. But I think it's a great start. It's a reminder of where we are, where we're supposed to have been. This is where you say we were going to be. So I think they are very consistent. I think it's a good document. I like the methodology.
Dr. Williams, do they actually, do government, what's your feel? The government really look at this? Anyone in the cabinet, is there anyone responsible for looking at, you know, reports as they come out? You know, in the United States, you know that, you know, there are people responsible to read the daily newspapers and update the president. You know, the president is reading books and, you know, newspapers, and, you know, they're monitoring, you know, war stations and different things of that nature. What is the process in Liberia?
The process everywhere else in the world, you have a national security advisor who briefs the president every morning before he begins to engage other state functionaries. That's part of the briefing he gets. How do those reports play out in terms of national security and governance? Firstly, let me congratulate Eddie. I think he has continued to contribute to national development as far as governance and accountability is concerned. Eddie, we all did get funding from the National Endowment, one of our major sources of funding for governance programming. Over the years, Eddie has continued to do just that, stay focused on reporting on the scorecard. Now you say, who's responsible, but who's also influenced by these reports? I will be quick to say that besides Eddie's outfit, there's Dan Sayer's outfit, who's also into the creation of these transparency and accountability scorecards. And over time, it's impacted the way people have performed, even at the level of the legislature. It's gained their attention, and that's progress from the endpoint of civil society that's very young, very fresh, 20, 25 years now. And so at the very least, these reports are gaining the attention of public officials. It will grow with Ahmed Sherif's coming on and many others after him. It will grow, and sooner than later, we will begin to see government put in resources to assist these organizations. I believe growing up, Dr. Dukley, you can help me out. We had the Institute for Strategic Studies in Liberia. It was a think tank and financed by the government. And they provided guidance, strategic guidance to government on policy issues, on our global engagement issues. Those organizations don't exist, or that organization doesn't exist at this present time. So little organizations like NAYMOTE and the Justice and Governance Initiative and other organizations, Siemens and all these people, they have niches that the government could work with. Instead of seeing them as antagonists, see them as partners. And instead of leaving them out to these international funding agencies like NED, who would, after the attention to Liberia is gone, they've all directed their resources to the Congo. And who knows where the next conflict our region is going to be. You know, these groups can assist. There's so much local groups can assist, because the advantage with working with local groups is that they understand context, they have their local expertise, and they can do so much to advance the country forward. So
thank you.
I'm happy with what Eddie has done. Many have said it's premature. We have to start somewhere. Rome wasn't built in one day. These reports, they're not the most perfect piece of material. Yes, some of the promises, Dr. Duke said they're campaign promises, but you extract all of those campaign promises, things by which to hold government by. You know, some of the promises and the processes are perennial. You cannot, when in terms of building capacity, for example, capacity is not built in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years.
Right.
Even us who claim to have PhDs, we're still building capacity in many different ways. So capacity is a long-term, capacity building is a long-term process. We can't grade government based on that. There has to be harder, more concrete measures by which to grade the government in terms of her promises. And so Eddie's doing well. He can do better as he goes along. And I'm sure he's going to do it. We'll support him however we can. But again, this is an opportunity again, Mr. Salif. This report should show you the challenges you got ahead of you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother Gibson, if you are to advise the government of President Boakai now, so, you know, tomorrow morning your phone rings and it's, you know, the presidential minister, and they're asking for your advice. What would that one thing be, one or two things in your view that you will be able to share with the president? He's coming. I think he's coming to the States soon to address the United Nations.
Yeah. Number one thing would be definitely for them to be a bit more transparent, open in terms of the work that they are doing and where they are, in line with all of these promises that have been discussed with the arrest agenda. What have they been doing, right? So I think from the report, they called out that a lot of these ministry websites have zero to no information on what's being done. It's like they're holding on to the truth. So what better way to change the narrative of what people are saying in opposition, and also people who, quite frankly, are probably impatient that supported them? What better way to do that than to get in front of it by sharing what you all are doing and being transparent, sharing information on your websites, to ensure that the public is properly informed. I think that's more of what they need to be doing, even if it's just 9 months in. At least try to have weekly updates, or if you have a Ministry of Information, you know, instead of you being a defender of the government, talk about the work the government is doing. I think that needs to be done frequently. They have press conferences at the mansion through the press secretary, but all we hear is just spins that are being done to change, you know, things that are not even super important. We're talking about the issues that affect the daily Liberians and what is their arrest agenda that they have, sharing it with the public so you can educate them to where they can be properly informed to speak to some of those things that have been written here, you know, in this report by NAYMOTE. So I think they need to just get back to trying to push that open government that they talked about so much, because they said President Weah didn't do it, Madam Sirleaf didn't do it. So what would they do, you know, in terms of being open and transparent?
Yeah. Thank you. Viewers, if you're just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday here on Focus on Liberia. I have a very distinguished panel tonight to discuss these very critical issues pertaining to our nation state. Brother Ahmed, critique for me, or maybe not, you know, maybe not the right choice of word, but if you look at NAYMOTE's report as a scholar, okay, maybe do a peer review for me. What is the one thing that you don't like about it, and what is something that you like about that report? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
I'm saying you're trying to get me in trouble before I get started. Like Dr. Williams has been saying, Eddie and others, the Afro Barometer, these are people who are in Liberia. They engage, they're in the trenches, they do analytics, they do surveys, they look at the data and then they put out quarterly or annual reports. Afrobarometer, I think, is annually. They look at citizens' perceptions about everything. One thing I like about NAYMOTE, I don't know to pronounce it. It's NAYMOTE. It's analytics, right? So they look at, they just I don't know if they did survey or how they gather the data. Because as a scholar now, you're asking me as a researcher, I'm thinking, so what's this, what was the method? What's the methodology of the data collection? How they gather, how they did analysis? What's the sample size? How many people did they talk to? Did they just look at these promises? Did they look at campaign materials, or have they actually looked at governance materials? Like Dr. Duclos said, the national development agenda has just been developed. They just actually signed contract for Liberian firms to do this work a month or so ago. So we're waiting to see how it will look like and all of that, so we can begin to see the metrics that they will put in place to measure and all that. That said, I mean, what I observe about this NAYMOTE report is they're saying 59% of projects or campaign promises are ongoing. So as a researcher, I'm saying to myself, this is not a negative report at all. I mean, although people are focused on 3%, someone said to me today, when the president is going to the United Nations, to the General Assembly, and to seek, Liberia's a seat for Liberia in the Security Council and so on, they reissue a report that says president has accomplished only 3%. Now, see, then you're taking it out of context. They're saying what's completed so far. I think it's 59%. There are other categories, of data that they've presented to us. So we have to take that, put it in context, look at the 119 promises they talk about, and think about Dr. Duclos' wisdom here that when you are campaigning, the promises made, how did you then whittle that down into actual policy direction, governance document, and in the arrest agenda? Is that what the National Development Plan has been modeled upon? What is that? What does that look like? So when I see that national development document and I see all these campaign promises in there, because some campaign promises actually end up being a policy direction, a policy prescription that guides governance, right? Because the people will ask you, you say you will build roads. Where are the roads? You say you will do this, and we haven't seen this. So you don't want that perception to becloud how the government is doing, right? So again, coming back, what I like about our report is analytic. They look at it, they give it to us, and those of us who are researchers, we look at it and say, and put it in context and say, what are they saying? What is this really saying? What have they said? What have they not said? What's the data not saying? And then draw conclusion from that. Some will be categorical, some will be just extrapolation based on what you didn't see and what you saw. So what I saw is they're saying, look, the president is working. 59% project is ongoing. That's significant. The completion rate has all kinds of factors that you want to look at. How far have they been in office? When did they form the cabinet? Which sector of the government has completed what? And what are those that are ongoing? So the metrics is interpretable.
Thank you. You're my brother, and maybe I'm biased, but you know a lot of book. You know too much book. My cousin, right? I had a cousin. He passed now. May his soul rest in peace. He was older than me, and we went to Waplo Institute together. So one time he called me from Ghana. He said, "My piggy, send me some money." I said, "But I'm going to class now. When I come back, I will send it through Western Union." And then he said, they book business. You know too much book now. Just send money. Book. Hey man, they boy here.
Still behind the book business.
Right. So.
Oh, thank you. Those are kind words. Thank you.
So anyway, I just thought I'd share that anecdote. So if we have any callers out here, we can definitely go to the phone, or do we have to first announce it? Right? We have to first announce.
Yeah, I think you first announce the number, you post your number.
Yeah, but I don't know. Jerome, you know the number. I don't know the number. Please, if you're watching us, and you know our number, just call, and we'll put you on. I mean, this panel is we're very open. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from everybody. We want to hear from supporters. We want to hear from critics. We want to hear from everybody. This is Tough Talking Thursday, and this is your show. This is the people's show. This is, we're very open. So at this point in time, since, we have about half an hour to go, I want to pivot to something else. The president is coming back to the States. He was just here. He was in Atlanta the other day, and he was at a business forum. And then he went to Indonesia and to China, right? And then he's back in the States. So, I mean, I'm, what is Dr. Dukley? And, I usually will come to you on this because he's your friend, right? He's your friend. So you'll take a lot of the heat. Like, who's measuring these things? And I'm very honest about this. This is a very honest question. Like, is there anyone who's measuring result? Because if I'm working as executive manager right now, I will at least attempt to do something like we're measuring something. I want to measure the outcome of all these trips. Reason why I sat on this show and was criticizing George Weah about the too many trips, because there were no results. So who's measuring these things? And do we have any concrete outcome of all these trips?
Presidential trips are usually for PR.
Excuse me. Let me announce. I think this is the number, right? This is our number: 772-940-2871. I believe that's our number. So please call that number. Go ahead, Dr. Dukley.
Yeah, I think the presidential trips are mostly about PR. You go out. You sell the image of your country. You hope that every step you make, you get one or two friends who will say, "Oh, okay, maybe I might look at your country." What Boakai is doing is probably trying to sell the new image and say, "Okay, we are a new country, new government, new administration. We are trying to do things differently. So therefore, I have to travel around the world to sell that image." The down part of that is that as long as you travel, because when president travels, I know this from insider, you take 2-3 days before the president leaves the ground to prepare the trip. 2-3 days for nothing. Nothing happens in the president's office besides preparing that trip. No matter if it's for 1 day, the whole staff is mobilized for 3 days to prepare that trip. And then you go on, and usually it's just 1 or 2 meetings. He's coming to the UN. The UN is what everybody goes to. I've been to the UN with President 7 times, but I have never entered the building. I was even never there. Once we landed, I went home to do something different, and I showed up to finalize, to look at his speech or whatever. But it is. You got 150 head of state president coming to speak in 1 week. The only one that matters, the US, Russia, maybe France, maybe Iran, maybe, nobody listen. Yeah, it's just pageantry. So you always have, the president sells the image. That's his job, sell the image of the country. If he's doing it effectively, yes. If he's not, the other side is, as you pointed out, George Weah traveling all the time. And that was one of his downfalls, the reason of his downfalls.
Yeah.
That while he was traveling, people were messing up the country. He was not paying attention to what was happening behind him. So I hope that Boakai has a clean eye on his governance process.
Yeah.
And not just traveling to,
I really do hope so.
Wait,
too,
Mr. Sherif, you got your first call.
Okay.
Your name and where you calling from?
Langley, Ian Kelly, calling from Minnesota.
Go ahead.
Langley, Ian Callen. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Yeah, go ahead. Look like you are listening to yourself on your TV. Go ahead.
Let me just blow it. Let me blow a little bit. I'm so into the program.
Okay, it's all right.
Firstly, I would like to commend our AMEC there. I mean, this is a seasoned and professional topic, and the report that came off from NAYMOTE. All right, I used to work with them in Liberia prior to coming to the States. And in developmental economics, you must take your own development. The Asian people has had a role model, and Rwanda has seen it. Our Liberia's development is on us, all professionals from all sectors, both within Liberia and other Liberia. We have to be Liberia focused, all right? And we'll be there to complement. I have experience in running both not-for-profit and profit organizations, contributed to the educational. There are a lot of dots here we left in terms of economic development for Liberia. It hasn't been touched, all right? Unfortunately, all right, we were under the guidance of Dr. Sawyer and President Selly. The concept, look, mobilizing resources for reconstruction of Liberia. Unfortunately for us, government has only done 5%, all right? 5%. You got the blueprint, what it is to develop a country, all sectors, already done. We shouldn't be complaining, all right? We need to think outside the box, facilitate our own development. Donors could not solve it. Asia did it. I mean, Mauritius, I was mentored in Mauritius, the #1 economy in Africa. Like, in the economy just on tourism. We are endowed with all the natural resources in the world. But our challenge is human capacity. And some of us, I'm an educator. We're going back to go to our school system to teach people basic literacy. We don't have, even those who consider ourselves educated. I came to the States here. There are a lot of things I don't know. I'm into IT now and venture because the world is changing. Unfortunately for us, global art development, survey Liberian economy that was written 30 years ago. It's like a reality. Liberia is growing, we're not developing. So we need to change our mindset. We need to focus on human capacity development. Check the report, it's a static. That report that came, it's a static for Liberian development. Let's be honest with ourselves, both in the private sector, in the civil society sector, and in government. We need to be honest and look ourselves in the mirror and correct ourselves. No donor, no assistant. You can even go all over the world. They will not solve it. The white people, companies are looking for investment to make profit. The world is about making profits. It's not about complaining.
Yeah.
On a competitive age, I just want to share that with you. And I really appreciate some of the points that the Duke can make, all right? I follow you guys continuously. I hope to be part of the panel, professionally looking at Liberia. Please call your research and things, instruments that we can use to improve ourselves. So I thank you. I just want to contribute that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, just like Dr. Douglas said, you know, you have our highest institution of learning, the University of Liberia. They haven't put out anything in years. And this is supposed to be, as we used to say in my days, and and before I got there, lux in tenebris, light in darkness. But now it's like lux in lux, or tenebris in tenebris, darkness in darkness. This was going on. So all right. So now the if there's any other caller, then we'll come back to the call. So William, what the president, as I said, the president will be coming to the UN. He went to China the other day, and then there was a meeting in Indonesia, and the Indonesia Africa Summit, the China Africa Summit, all these different different summits, and that's not the only summit. There's going to be other summits as well, across the globe. And so we Africans are the ones going to these, countries. We're going to them. We're hats in hand. Please give us. And some of these countries, you may get something. You may end up getting something. It may not be enough. You may end up getting something. But we take these, and I'm not talking about not this government. It's just a generational problem. We take these and we pay ourselves. We upkeep ourselves. when I say us, I'm talking about Liberia as a whole, civil servants and all these different, we upkeep ourselves. You know, so that's a missing piece.
Mr. Sherif, not to cut you, you got a call.
All right, I'll come back to that question. Let's take the call.
Okay, caller, where you calling from and your name? You gotta speak up. Your name is what?
Emmanuel Jackson.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, the debate is good. I want to tell the panelists thank you, but there's a part that say nothing for us without us. I live in America. I came here not young, not old. I look at my age right now, like, okay.
In between.
I'm 65 years old, or 60 years old to retire to go to Liberia. Those who are left there, who of my age group, they might not be living when I get there. What can I do right now to transform the economy, to transform my neighborhood, to help where I came from? Agriculture. I'm not an agriculturalist, but I think I can help. Because my father did my father did saving contribution. He may find out today, next year, they may find another place. But looking at my perspective, looking at what I've seen, looking at what I can do, we all can help. Focus on Liberia is helping a lot to electing our society, telling the people what is good and what is wrong. Even though there are people who can take side and focus on Liberia, Mr. Gay Man, Mr. Gay Man, I want to open chicken portrait. I want to go to open chicken portrait. I've been to Liberia several times. I want to open chicken portrait. Let me tell you, people who think they are experts go to Africa fool our people. I found Boakai. Our village will have better go live inside our house. We have sheep living inside our house. When they say, you kill all the goat, you kill all the sheep, they bring diseases. They kill all. They never told them, say, you're open farm for the better goat and the sheep. They told them, say, you kill all. People kill all. Then what happened? We buy goat from Guinea and Ivory Coast. We are not learning from our mistakes. We could be in the Western world. Those who go to schools, various schools around in Liberia and the Western world, they don't identify with the people who don't know nothing. They say, don't know nothing. Don't tell them, man, you don't know nothing. Tell them, man, my brother, who can work their way around to settle everything that you don't know. But if somebody even go to University of Liberia, even though there is no good school there, they graduate, they ain't going back to a very and tell the people, say, I graduated from this time, and this is what I learned, this is what we can do to work together. All they will do is intimidate the people, speak to them on a lower level. In fact, they tell them a word of the pastor telling you, say, you're very good responsible for your illness. I change all the dynamics. People live in America, they don't go to their villages. For me, I'm different. I live from here, I go to my village. I see my mom, I see my uncle, I see my auntie, I see everybody. They cannot kill me. They born me. Until we change our mindset, until we talk to our people, until when you get a degree, go by, don't abuse the people, talk to them, advise them, tell them they water here, chlorine in the water. They want here, you also do the way. You're not supposed to walk with your bare feet. You're not supposed to wear with no pants on. Until we change, we talk to the people. ourselves in our humble verse or humble verses or whatever language you speak. We will not do that. We'll be where we are and we'll remain where we are until judgment day come. I don't know whether it will come or it will come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's
profound.
Yes, some profound points there, really.
Yeah, two points.
Desperation, profound desperation.
Yeah.
Of meaning, a meaning to directions or something.
Yeah. So William, what do you make of these trips? Again, putting yourself in the shoes of, say, you were in government today. Will you offer an advice as to limit these trips, or what would be your advice?
Yeah. So you said Gibson or Williams?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Gibson. I'm sorry, Gibson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as the discussion when the administration was in Asia, I think it was last week or something like that. But on the previous episode, I had stated how all these people come on these trips, right? The cabinet ministers, and even some other individuals who, quite frankly, I feel is just taking up space, right? But when you're coming in hand to do these conversations, you should have something to give to these investors, or have some package, right? Packaging that will be able to communicate what you all are requesting and what is being done by the administration through their arrest agenda. I would like to see more of that. I don't know if they have those types of documents that they present to people, but I would like to see more of that type of stuff being done, and also limiting the amount of people you bring in. If you are having key dialogues, right, with certain entities when it comes to investments, then it makes sense to bring the national investment head, right, of the commission. But to bring 3 or 4 people that's doing the same thing when it comes to information reporting, it makes no sense to bring that many people on one trip, right? Especially if the budget cannot hold and pay for all those individuals. Meanwhile, we're saying that we're going through a budget recast right now. So I think they need to lessen the number of people they're bringing on these trips, and also reinvent the wheel a bit when it comes to coming to America and Canada. I know that they've started doing these investment forums with Liberians.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, but also taking it a step further, not just having these forums, but meeting with other key individuals in different sectors in these different countries to see how they can have some conversations before you arrive, and not just depending on, like you said, the IMF, the World Bank, to have some of these conversations, from reaching out to powerful Liberians in different areas to potentially have some conversations to where Liberians can bring that wealth back home.
Business people like Jerome them.
Yeah, business individuals. And also I would say when we come to the education sector, right, having some of these folks who have been well educated abroad, bringing them back to work at the University of Liberia, to work at the University in Bonn, all these areas where
you remind me. I was doing a research. You remind me of something. Dr. Tolbert, William Tolbert, President Tolbert, when he visited Gerald Ford, he visited the United States. I think it was in 1976, and his meeting with President Ford. You can look at the transcript, and he was sitting there talking about his concern for his people. He said, "My people in the rural areas." He said, "There is a problem in my country, and it's illiteracy. And he said, "I'm fighting hard to bring education to all of my people so that they can be included in the national development process." William Tolbert, 1976, to Gerald Ford. So he didn't go in there. He said to Gerald Ford, President Ford, he said, "I didn't come to beg for handout. I just, I have these plans. This is what keeps me up every day for my people." and it's profound. But what do we do as a people, as a country? No, he was a bad man.
Let me chime in here.
And we slapped him.
Yes, when I was with the Chamber of Commerce, and when I met with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in 2010, I was supposed to speak at some incubation, some place where young folks from the United States went home and they wanted to start a business. They had all these proposals. And then, being part of that, and I asked them, when do you start? Have you done your research? All of this. And 9 out of the 10 groups that I met with, they were appealing to President Sirleaf to give them seed money. So how do you add? President Sirleaf is asking us to develop, to enlarge the economy. She has no money. You got all these great ideas. Then you go into her and say, I need seed money. She's asking you to come and enlarge in our economy. And I told them, this is not how it is done. You have to come to Ellie and say, I need private-public partnership. I got my seed money, I got this. I need you to give me maybe land or give me something that the government has that we can do in exchange so I can get going. Then I will hire more people like I did. I wanted to hire people in my own village, in my own terrain. So they gave me 200 acres. I started with rubber. I have collaboration with Locke, and they told me, if you are not willing to invest in 8 years before the rubber actually start producing money, then don't do it. So I bit the bullet and did it. So I had 20 people working since 2015 on my payroll.
Wow. Okay.
So we are expanding. You cannot go to the government that is like Boakai now has no money, right? You can have all the brilliant ideas. If you go into the same Boakai and say, we need seed money, we need this, we need that, he doesn't have it. You are not expanding the economy. You're not helping Boakai. Boakai, Liberia needs people to come and start small businesses that will be able to employ 2-3 people outside of government. That's how you help government. I just wanted to add that on.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further, right? So if the people in the legislature know exactly what they're doing, then small businesses, people who come in there and organize small businesses should have some incentive. So they should go back, go to the legislature, make laws, legislations that will help promote small businesses. But you know what's going on? They have the duty-free privileges. Why do they need duty-free privileges? It's why it's important to have these Liberian-owned think tanks, so that, some of these things, the disadvantages to the Liberian economy, some of these things can be broken down in real simple English and real simple terms. Like, you're killing the country. Why do you need duty-free privileges as a member of the Senate or House of Representatives? For what?
Yeah, but
they're killing the country in many ways. Why do you need gas coupons? For what? Why do you need? And you mentioned on point one time. You mentioned this on point one time. I was watching your show, Jerome, and you mentioned how when they purchase vehicles now, when these people representatives, senators, when they purchase vehicles now, after 2 years, they're changing vehicles. They're buying brand new ones.
For 3 years.
And this is inexcusable. So most time we look at the executive and we forget what's going on with the legislature. We forget what's going on with the judiciary. They're killing us. They're killing us. If you take care of that part, this country is very wealthy. It's very wealthy. But because of all these people that are fleecing the nation, that's why we're not going anywhere. And it's a shame that we go hand in hand every time to the United States of America. Our speaker is paid better than Speaker Johnson in the United States.
Way.
Okay. paid more better. You know, our pro tem is paid better than the pro tem of the U.S. Of the U.S. Senate, Chuck Schumer. What sense does this make? So these are the things.
Our speaker had 72 people on his payroll as assistants.
Yeah. Do we? Yeah, go
and
ahead.
they're non-professionals, though.
Go ahead, Agma. You wanted to say something?
I said they're non-professional.
You wanted Dr. Williams to say something? I can chime in on the trip thing.
Yeah, I'll come back to Dr. Williams. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, presidential trips are not bad. As you are saying, if they're planned, if you properly plan, and I'm not assuming these are not. I'm just saying, you know, I was in Atlanta 2 weeks ago when the president was there. I attended that conference and just observed, you know, how the delegation was doing, and observe other people's delegations, and you know, Africans from other places and African American organizations that were there part of that conference. Presidential you know, trips usually, particularly like the UNGA, UN General Assembly, is the sideline meeting. It's the sort of ministerial level NGO to NGO engagement. These various groups that the government invites. Every government does that. I'm sure President Boakai is bringing youth groups, civil society representatives to participate in various interactions on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. That's where you collaborate. That's where you germinate ideas. You learn from, those are the study tours. You learn from how they're doing it in Namibia, how they're doing it in Tanzania, how they're doing this in Kenya, who are our colleagues that are working on similar governance and justice issues in East Africa, and do they have coalitions we can join? Can we learn from them? Can they come to Liberia? Similarly, the government officials, you know, sector ministers, sector heads of agencies and commissions and ministries, and as they call them, ministries, agencies, and commissions, are choosing, ought to be choosing strategically to come on these trips because of that very reason, right? They would have been negotiating, engaging with their counterparts way ahead of time. Let's say the Indonesia trip, the China trip. We saw a lot of heads of agencies and ministries and so on were, and particularly on the forum on Africa-China forum meeting. And then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you know, of course, they are the ones who are really helping with the international cooperation piece. So I'm just saying, in the context of the UNGA, there are a lot of good that can come out of it if you plan it properly. You choose the right people to come. You do a lot of work months ahead of time. I guess the same can be said for all trips that, you know, our president takes. So I think what we as, you know, civil society groups, think tanks, scholars, Liberian thinkers, and journalists, business people in Liberia and outside of Liberia ought to be holding the government accountable. Is asking these critical questions, you know, to look at what the government's plan is, who are going on the trip and why, how much work has been done, what's the report when they return. It's not just the money, how much the president brought, you know, $3 billion the refinery in Buchanan or something like that. But we should be asking these other line ministries and officials about the outcomes and plans and things like that. And those are the kinds of work that we intend to do. Next week, by the grace of God, I will be at the UNGA as well. I will watch the president speak. I will talk to some other officials and connect with people from other countries or civil society groups and just learn and ask questions and try to cultivate partnerships and relationships. I think that's the way you do it. You do it like that. You bring a lot more home. The trips will yield dividends and results than we normally hear about in the media.
Yeah, thank you. As we wind down,
it doesn't happen that way, though. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, that's a different question, Dr. Duke. If it doesn't happen that way, but it ought to happen that way. That you know, in terms of, I don't know where you're going with that. How the president, you know, how they do the sort of counterpart to counterpart engagement and do But a lot of sideline meetings happen. You know, for instance,
I've
if you
been
look
to
at
7 GA meetings. I've been to 7 UNGA meetings. I work on speeches to the UNGA. I know what happens. Nothing happens.
well, I have also seen though, like even in
Yeah, I
on
know,
this,
I know what the scenario you described is the
yeah,
ideal situation, is what should happen. But
and that's what we're
everybody
encouraging them
goes to
to
New
do.
York. Yeah,
That's
everybody goes to New York. Everybody's goes.
Yeah.
Mr. Sherry, you got a call.
All right. After that, we'll go to Dr. Williams, and then we'll wind down. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, your call, your name and where you calling from?
Yes, Joseph Tao, one of the panelists on Focus on Liberia, and I'm calling from Houston, Texas. Good show tonight, gentlemen. Look, I just want to point something out here. I think Mr. Sherif just said that those trips, there is nothing really wrong with these trips. So I think we should focus more on what is intended to be achieved on these trips. That is where we should actually focus. I think our problem in Liberia and in Africa is that our governments don't do much. Like, they don't actually have a plan. They just go to these trips hoping to come away with something. And that is where the problem is. And since, okay, so President Boakai took a trip to the US. There was no problem. Then he took a trip to China, and it's like everybody going, hey, wow, what's going on here? It said that I started hearing, oh no, you know, the American, how would they feel? The United States is one of the largest trading partners with China. China now leads the world in industry and everything else. You have to be able to deal with them. So for us to be trying to, instead of us looking at what we can accomplish as a country, we are worried about what the US is going to think and what this person is going to think. I don't get it. I don't think we should even try to look at things that way. The world is not a multipolar world anymore. So we have to be able to position. I remember it was 1988. Samuel Wing was my teacher at Carver Mission. And China was Liberia's largest development partner, building the stadium and building the health ministry and other things. Then one day, Liberia was told by the US to recognize Taiwan, even though the US said does not recognize Taiwan. China pulled out. I was a kid. Everything came to a standstill. We shouldn't go that route. Everybody dealing with China, everybody dealing with America, we should deal with whoever we can deal with that can help us. Let us look at it that way. And something else, the host, very good host, you mentioned about like why these guys having all this duty free instead of giving it to like setting it up for. I have gone to Liberia. We wanted to do agriculture. We went in, we talked to a lot of people, we look at all of the stuff, we secure maybe over 3,000-4,000 acres of land. But we went to the agriculture ministry to see how we could work together. We put together a team. Nobody wants to listen to you. Everybody wants to see what you can give them. And you know the sad part? This should be mentioned on these shows and here amongst us in the US. Almost everybody I met came from the US.
Yeah.
Every major position in the government from early to now, they are from the US. You guys are like, they have no intention of helping the country, have no commitment. So I'm always shocked when I hear that they should look to the diaspora to be able to get people that are qualified. That is not our problem. Our problem is the people from the diaspora, because they're going in, they're not serious. They ran 18 years of failed government. When we're talking about corruption on these shows, as if the corruption is happening in Liberia. No, it is the team from the US that is going in, looting the country on an industrial scale. And then when they get caught up, they run through Sierra Leone, free time, they get back on the plane, they come back to the US, and they post it on Facebook. This is what we've experienced for 18 years.
Yeah.
So we should be able to hold each other responsible in this country and on these shows. Because it seems like the people from the US, they have no vision at all. At least not all, but most, because we've seen the outcome and the result. Right now in the Boakai government, it's dominated by people from the US, the diaspora group. So when people keep saying they should include more diaspora group, my question is, do you want the election to take place in the US so the government can get reformed in the US and then brought to Liberia? Because it's almost like that's what we are asking. The group in the US really cannot help Liberia because they have double commitment. Their commitment is not to the country. They're only going, the US is difficult. People are going there to only make money and come back. So we need to be able to address that.
Thank you.
Salaries we're talking about. They have been on Ellen. Ellen set that country off the field. 2006, 2007, we were talking this stuff. There is no way that you pay people $15,000 to $20,000. I remember I was called. Because I work in oil and gas to go to LPRC, and I look at the pay structure and I refuse. I said, no, it's not. Why am I going there to make $16,000, $17,000 for what? And it didn't make any sense.
Thank you.
What we have, people are rushing.
Thank you.
We need, guys, we need to be serious. We need to be honest with ourselves. We who are here in the U.S.
Thank you.
We hold each other responsible, and we need to actually be able to call each other out. Let us do that, at least for the sake of the country, because the American group dominate.
Thank you.
Because of the position.
Thank you.
And the people who probably are capable and have love for the country are not the one ending up in the country. Or at least when they end up there, it's like something goes wrong.
Thank you, sir. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it's a good. He mentioned something about Taiwan, right? So you know, Liberia was always, you know, flirting like it was Taiwan today, then it was China, and then you know the whole foreign policy was driven by what the U.S. dictated. And one of the things
Taiwan brought $25 million in his, you know, in a attaché case, and then that was it.
Yeah, you know, and the disadvantage. Look, you know, at a time that, you know, you could see that, you know, in other parts of the world, well, Cuba was helping sending doctors to places, you know, other areas was sending their students to Cuba to study medicine, and we couldn't benefit from that because the United States was telling Liberia not to do. I guess, you know, the fear of the mighty United States. So you mean to tell me that you couldn't even send your students there to study for free so they can come back home and help your country? But anyway, I digress. That's a whole discussion for another day.
Yeah, I would say though, I would say something about that. You know, it has this thing about the U.S. image in Liberian psyche, and just the guy was talking about that. You know, you go to China and say, "Oh yeah, we worry about America." What America was thinking?
Right.
America have $1 trillion trade thing with China. You think they're going to worry about $3 billion that Liberia doing with China about gold mine and iron ore?
Right.
I think that's a problem. This, you know, image, you know, this psyche thing in our psyche that, oh yeah, everything you do, you got to watch out for America. America doesn't. You know, I came here in 1993 with Comapo. We met with Donald Payne at the state, you know, at the Congress. You know, he said, you know, you have a lot of work to do to sell Liberia to Americans, because if you contribute to chip off the west coast of Africa and drop in the ocean tomorrow, nobody will sleep. Nobody will lose sleep in Washington, D.C.
That's true.
This was 93. Donald Payne, he said it to come up with it. He said, you have work to do because nobody cares about Liberia in D.C.
That's true.
So we have this phantasmagoric idea that Washington wake up every morning and say, what is Liberia doing? Nobody cares about Liberia.
Especially after the Cold War. After the Cold
War, yeah, that was it. You know, it was Cold War, and then said, boom.
Yeah.
You know, the day Boakai was getting inaugurated in Monrovia, yes, they sent the ambassador to the UN, who is almost a Liberian. But the Secretary of State was in Abidjan next door watching football game with Alassane Ouattara.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how much we respect, how much respect we have. So
Jimmy
stuff is fantastic
Jimmy
for me.
Carter.
Huh?
Jimmy Carter was going to Nigeria, and Tobo asked him, "Can you just stop by?
Yeah.
Can you just stop?"
Yeah,
and he stopped
exactly.
there, and they give him the most elaborate welcome.
Elwood don't talk about that. Elwood
Yeah, because it wasn't about Jimmy Carter, it was about President Torbo, that elaborate welcome.
Yeah, but the idea is that he just dropped in. It was just like, oh, I'm just going over there. I'm just going to stop by. I mean, like this is the same thing that Dr.
Mohamed, all of what we're saying goes back to our most recent national orator when she said to us, our relationship with the U.S. needs to be re-examined. That's exactly the point she was trying to make. Until Liberians can form an identity of its own and begin to think Liberia and not U.S. first, Liberia last, this mentality will continue. Our pledge, our flag represents a country that cares very little about us. And so when she says, what have we benefited in the process? That's exactly what she's saying. We're subordinating national interest to that of the U.S. And it hasn't proven beneficial for us. It hasn't. And I'm happy that the conversation continues to be had. It is evolving. It's going to gain root. And soon it would gain traction because, our leaders, whether it is, at least now we've started to see some antagonism or some sort of independent posture coming from the legislature. But throughout the elections, just about every candidate was looking to the U.S.
Why are you talking about the legislature? Those guys don't know why are you talking about the legislature?
Mohamed, our experiences are different. Our experiences are different. I see success in small steps. You might see it in bigger steps. You might be looking at the forest. Right now, I'm looking at the tree. I see a few individuals in there who are standing up and seeking independence in terms of political independence for the country.
Yeah, there are.
Okay?
There are some individuals. Yeah, you're right about that.
We're hoping it's going to grow. It's going to grow.
Yeah, you're right about that.
The typical Liberian psychic will not change if our relationship. And the regrettable part is we're the ones thinking that. They do not think that here. I'm a social studies teacher in the U.S. And there is, throughout the social studies curriculum in the state of Virginia, there is not one mention of the American Colonization Society. What does that say about us and how we think about this country? And ourselves within the vision of that country. And so there's a lot to be done. We're hoping our leaders can begin to see things differently. You talk about all these trips. All these trips aren't necessary. They aren't. Last UNGA, several African leaders decided it was going to be their last trip. They're not coming over for the cameras, because that's what it is. Generally, it's for the cameras. It's supposed to be a great opportunity to network, but not much is done. Not much is done when they come out here. For people working at the level of the presidency, it's all about an opportunity to get some per dime.
Thank you, Doc.
Because you go back home and not much is achieved.
Thank you.
So we got to be more strategic. One of the callers talk about strategic engagement. We got to be strategic about when we're leaving the country, how we're leaving the country, what numbers. You took 60 people to Singapore. For what, really? 60? Who paid for that?
Thank you. Thank you. So we're coming now. This is, with that, we're going to end the show. So we're going to go around the room to give our final thoughts. But before that, I just want to say that when you put all this together, sometimes it's hard to blame the United States, to blame X, to blame Y, to blame Z, because Here's the thing. There was a group of people in power at a certain time, and they were deposed, and the natives said, oh, we've gained our independence. These very natives who said they've gained their independence, they came in, they destroyed their country. I know some of them are going to come, these nativists are going to come after me. But you know what? They destroyed their country. The destruction still continues to this day, where the native people are very unpatriotic. So, the guest speaker says something, but she left a lot out. These nativists are very unpatriotic for what they are doing to the country. They are damaging the infrastructure of the country. They are damaging the resources of the country. They don't care. They have no empathy whatsoever. And the country can die and burn, and they don't care. They want to line their pockets and become wealthy millionaires and billionaires and tens of millions of dollars. They don't care about their country. Raw sewage is running in our capital city. And with that, we're going to go around the room. Who wants to go first? And then we'll wrap up. It's been a great show. I've enjoyed it. I don't know about you all, but
you're a host. You got to pick the order.
Dr. Douglas, you pick the order.
Yeah, okay. I'll go. Ahmed, you go first.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Douglas, and thank you, Mr. Sherif, for hosting, and to all the co-panelists here. I am most grateful for your feedback on LGJI, Liberia Governance and Justice Initiative, that we have launched. We're not here to say we know it all. We're not here to say we have the solutions, all the solutions, just us. Or ideas, or the others are not doing anything in Liberia or outside of Liberia. We're here to say we have Liberians, both at home and abroad, who themselves can do things for Liberia, can help think for the country, can help, look at the country's condition and issue serious reports that can be respected at home and abroad, that can contribute to national development. That's what LGJI is about. We will continue. It's a new organization, newly launched. We don't have all the funding. We will be looking for partnership and funding opportunities. We're going home to Liberia in October to launch it there, have an office there. We intend for us to have, very serious, well-staffed outfit in the country that will be working with colleagues. And again, like I said, with the government as a partner, because we want to be able to say, look, we have some ideas, we want to contribute. How do we do it? Sometimes you got to go inside the institution, have conversation, assess capacity, provide training where you can, bring people in, local partners in other African countries, what they're doing, how they're doing and succeeding at it, and how can we replicate some of these in Liberia. This is really the goal. The final piece there is the Diaspora Engagement Program. It's going to be a substantive program where we hope, our fellowship program will be funded to have people who are dedicating their time thinking about how to connect Liberians in the diaspora and Liberians at home on very substantive basis, other than just remittances. Be it helping people to come, to volunteer, contribute, or maybe give them an honorarium, give them an opportunity to come home to teach at a university, teach at a school, go to WAPO Institute, and things like that. And really try.
I'm going to tell you now.
All right.
Yes,
that's what this is about. And again, thank you.
Now that you say that, I'll give you 5 more minutes.
Thank you. You see it, Dr. Douglas.
I told you they may relate to Todman. All he did for you to praise him. You see, look at
that. Dr. Douglas, you are
too much book, man.
You're an old politician. You see that? You praise the man, then he says, I give you additional 5 minutes.
Give back,
but I will seize my 5 minutes. I just
in the Manibo culture, the Sherifs are the book people.
That's right.
In our culture, Sherifs are the book people.
Yes, we are the teachers.
Yeah, they read the Quran and interpret it 10 different ways, and then they confuse you.
you don't argue with us. Thank you, appreciate that. And then I will stop there and just say it's been a really great discussion, a great show. I look forward to engaging more.
Mr. Salih, can you read your
Yes, and our website is Mr. Gaiman has kindly put our website up here. So it's www.liberiagji.org. Liberia GJI. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, all the social media handles. Visit us, explore the organization, and leave questions and engage. We have contacts in Liberia and here in the US. You call Liberia, you talk to our staff there, you call us, we'll answer the phone. Thank you.
Thank you. What, Brother Gibson?
Yeah, thank you all for the opportunity tonight to engage in dialogue. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next conversation. The main thing I want to say as I do my closing is to the administration of President Boakai is to take what NAYMOTE has said and really look at it intrinsically and not come out with a response to defend what you all are doing, but to take the criticism that they're giving in terms of saying that you all need to do more with open government, making sure that transparency is promoted, to take that and to implement it. Have frequent updates about the work that's being done. As Dr. Duke stated, I know that in November they'll be launching their agenda and all the things they're planning on doing. But I think they need to start doing that now in terms of engaging the public and sharing a bit more before we get to November. There's a lot of work to be done. And, you know, as they stated when they took over, to manage expectations, I don't think when we get to year 2, there will be more conversations about managing expectations. It will be about what is going to be done to keep the expectations that Liberians have set for you all high. So if there's a need for them to have an open government mindset, to be open to criticism and to do things differently, to engage with foreign partners differently, to engage with Liberians abroad who have a wealth of knowledge, both in different sectors, to engage with them, to come home and bring their talents with them, whether it's contributing to the private sector or the public sector. There's a lot of work to be done. There are good Liberians, qualified Liberians all around the world, and they need to do better at creating a repository to bring those individuals back to Liberia to give back to their nation. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Congratulations, Mr. Sirleaf, for the undertaking with Liberia GJI. I look forward to hearing great things about it. Once again, thank you all for the opportunity. Looking forward to the next time.
That's an excellent point. Dr. Williams?
Thank you guys for the invite. I think the conversation has been good. Congratulations again to Mr. Sherif for his initiative. We're trusting that our country, too many of us have served and sacrificed at many different levels, and we cannot give up on it. We have to consistently stay engaged, at many different levels to ensure that the country becomes what we hope and pray it will be. We pray for the current government that we're in month 9, and that they can do better sooner than later. We're hoping that things will get better. Fundamentally, there are some critical issues that must be handled. It's within reach. Government does not need money for a lot of the things they need to do initially, policy-wise, setting up frameworks, tightening up bottlenecks, just general decision-making in the public space is requiring of immediate attention. Government needs to be strategic in how the little resources they have available to them can be used. These many travels has to be strategically engaged. And so there's a lot that can be done, should be done. I think it's on President Boakai to be circumspect in decision-making and how he utilizes the opportunity he has to serve. And, we call on all Liberians to join hands like Mr. Sherif in helping our country move forward in whatever little way they can. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Dukley.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed. And Mohamed, thank you for your good hosting tonight and
Thank
keeping
you.
us focused on the issues. And I think the looking at where we are, we have so many issues to deal with. First of all, I would say, okay, Boakai, you could say NAYMOTE report 3%, da 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 da. But I would say, yeah, he did two things that none of the two precedent government did. He set up this office of the ombudsman to check on people, although the person is not doing their job because 80% of the people in the government have not declared their assets. But he set up the office. So that's another problem. How does the president set up the office, appoint somebody to do a job, and the person does not do the job, and they keep them in the job? That's Boakai's problem. And then he put a step on the war crime tribunal thing that not Ellen, not Weah took over. So those are big things. So if you look at it in terms of deep governance issues, those are probably bigger than 90% of the little details that came from the campaign. We forget that. That sometimes, you got to look at governance from different angles. Not everything makes sense, and not everything that makes sense makes good sense anyway. I'll say, this was a good discussion. And, Ahmed, we are with you. You told me to join you. I will not join you because the only revolution I will join is the one I start. So I'm not joining you.
Oh, wow.
But it's a good initiative, and
I'll come to you anyhow.
Yeah, it's a very good discussion tonight, and thanks, Gibson. Please don't go to those old people on Friday night. Stay right here.
You know what, Dr. Dukley,
this is a place for new ideas, progressive ideas, and forward thinking. Not people who are thinking about 1976. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Here's my brother Gibson. Here's my pitch to you. The Friday night debate is very, what should I say? It's really you can ask Jerome. It's really broad based. I mean, there's a lot of substantive discussion. It's a real debate. But here it's too quiet. It's too cold. Like, okay, you defer a lot. Friday night is just free for all. Right?
Yeah, you have Ali Kamara there, right? On Friday night. So, and Elvis Morris on Friday night.
Everybody is there. All these opinionated people. All right. So, all right, Jerome.
Yeah, I think everybody here are professionals, and we all know politics. The problem that Joseph Boakai is having, it is not that these trips are bad. We all knew all along that these trips were good. But when he was in the opposition, he said they were not good and that he would cut them down. In fact, he said he would put only $200,000 in his budget for international travel. All of these things are now coming back to say, this is the hypocrisy that we talked about. Now, yesterday in my hometown of Grand Bassa County, there was a vessel that caught fire. And the media went to see what happened. It was an honest engine mistake, and they beat one of the journalists that were going live. Why? I reached out to one of the guys and said, why are you embarrassing your government? He said, we have to manage the information. They can't just come out here and take picture of the investor. So I told him, I said, you're doing Joseph Boakai a disservice. You cannot do this. So what I'm saying here is, the leader sets the example. When you say these things, now it becomes political. But yes, these trips are germane to what do we do. Even when I work for the United Way of the Chamber, you have to go and network. You have to do these things. In fact, we have political engagement where we go to Capitol Hill and lobby. So these things are, they are, but for knowledgeable people to say George Weah was doing it wasn't good, this is where the problem is coming from. But other than that, I got a text here, and it's from Mr. Sherif. It said, Mr. Sherif got a great idea, but watch, as soon as Joseph Boakai appoints him, that organization will die. So, Mr. Sherif,
Mr.
somebody.
Sherif,
Is it your own thing, or is it really a text?
No, yeah. Somebody just text me and say your book people. Soon President Waka sees you. They taught my old team. He appoints you, and our organization will die. That's why they say.
I show them this organization is not about me. It's not gonna die. This is an institution we're building. We hope to nurture.
Who are the other people involved in it? Who are the other people? If you know
Oh,
the names?
Dr. Douglas, let's talk off the show. There are many.
Dr. Douglas, the same people you were looking for to start your own, he stole all your people.
Exactly. You said you don't join revolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sherif.
Yeah, but we're looking for board members. We will reach out. We'll go to the website. You'll read more. It's not me. It's an institution. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we've come to the end of tonight's edition of Focus on Liberia Tough Talking Thursday. If it's Thursday, it's got to be Tough Talking Thursday here on Focus on Liberia. And this is the only platform that will carry such interaction, such program. So always watch Focus on Liberia. Come back again next week for another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. Tomorrow, it's Friday Night Debate.
That's right.
So I invite everybody to come to
the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah. Friday Night Debate. And then on the weekend, you also have other shows on the weekend.
We have the History Channel on Saturday and On Point on Sunday. But let me say something real quick. Our CEO, Mr.
And then you also have a new day. Don't forget, Priscilla is on a
that's correct.
A new day, yes.
Dennis Jar lost his nephew. He got shot and killed in Pennsylvania on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let's keep it in our prayer. There is a GoFundMe account to help the family. If you can reach out to Mr. Dennis Jar, let's please help. This is a terrible, terrible situation. Young college student. Something happens, roommate got upset and somebody shot somebody, and it's so tragic. So we need to reach out to Mr. Dennis Jar. Our condolences. We are praying for you and the family. If you have time, reach out to the family. That's about it, Mr.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people, Liberia.